Hello, I'm Carol, one of Lillian and Bob's two daughters. You'll hear from Patty later. We'd like to share a few memories and photos of Lillian, some attributes that made her unique, and some examples of how these attributes served her. She was a good student who could apply what she learned. For example, she was a skilled speller and used this talent later when she became proficient at crossword puzzles. Another focus for her was home economics. As a homemaker, she used skills she learned in school, such as the proper way to make a bed, fold napkins, and how to sew clothes and curtains. After graduation from Troy High School, she helped with the World War II war effort by working in the Eclipse Defense Plant, assembling timing devices for bombs. Even though Bob tried to join the service, he was a farmer, so was needed to produce food during wartime. So Bob and Lillian married in 1942 and moved to work on the farm for the next 38 years. Mother was fond of telling that they married on 11/11 at 11:11 a.m. because the ceremony started a few minutes late. She claimed that they married on Armistice Day and fought ever since. They met at Mountain Lake Square Dances in 1941, where Bob got her older brother Dick a job calling square dances, although Dick had only heard others call square dances before that day. The square dances played a major role in their courtship. Their early lives were economically difficult. In addition to the austerity imposed on them by World War II, for example rationing, they had a low income from the farm worker's job. They coped by being frugal, using Yankee ingenuity and working hard. Sometimes these efforts were applied to providing necessities, including food, for example raising vegetables in a garden for use in the summer, canning for winter use, picking wild fruit and nuts, making maple syrup. There are also many examples of how she bettered their lives using these attributes. She used cardboard boxes from the grocery store for insulation over the bare boards in the upstairs bedrooms, and used cotton print fabric from bags of dog food for our clothes. To augment their income, she sold eggs from their free-ranging chickens and saved enough to buy household appliances. Throughout her life, she was hardworking. Life on a dairy farm requires long days with minimal breaks. In addition to the chores in the barn twice a day, there was the housework. Before she saved enough for a washer and dryer, she had to use a wringer washing machine with water heated on a wood stove and then hang the clothes to dry. Her diligence didn't end when Bob died and she left the farm. At first she got a job at North Carolina State Dairy Farm, and then she began a business cleaning people's homes and babysitting. Not only did these use her farming and home economic skills, but they were demanding jobs for someone her age. She had a fondness for almost all animals. Every spring we had a few orphan lambs, so Mother fed them on a bottle until they could rejoin the flock. She and Bob raised small dogs. Not only did they sell some dogs occasionally, but they also hunted foxes and woodchucks. Foxes were the desired prey because most of the time these predators had a small bounty provided by the state. The money from the sales and bounties was welcome income. The one animal she did not like was pigs. They were pushy at feeding time, very stubborn, and a little mean. We kept some of the pigs in a pen down by the creek, a couple 100 yards through the pasture away from the barn. Mother took a bucket of grain to the pigs every day. Honeysuckle, my horse, and the cows spent their days in that pasture. Mother was afraid of horses. Honeysuckle knew Mother made a daily trip across the pasture and ran towards Mother with her bucket of grain. In order to keep the horse at a distance, Mother extended the bucket and gave Honeysuckle a taste, just enough to satisfy her so Mother could hurry on to the pig pen. She grew a vegetable garden as a necessity, but Mother had a real fondness for plants and flowers. She grew many flowers like African violets, roses, iris, and narcissus. She always loved to get clippings or slips from other people and try to get them to grow. Her favorite accomplishment was coaxing some skinny stick into a growing plant or flower. She retained her love of flowers all her life. During her lifetime, she served at multiple volunteer positions, including feeding and counseling a homeless group in Raleigh, a volunteer usher at the Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center, a board member for the Carrollwood Meadows Homeowners Association, and a library volunteer. After she retired, she spent thousands of hours making approximately 800 to 1,000 lap robes and quilts for patients in hospitals and nursing homes.
Thanks, Carol. I'm Patty, and I am Lillian and Bob's firstborn. We saved her highest priority for last, family and friends. As a child, she was closest to her older brother Dick because they were raised by their maternal grandparents. Her sister Lauren and brother Howard were raised by their paternal grandparents, so she didn't see them often during childhood. However, she grew closer to her 3 siblings as an adult and kept in touch with them and their families throughout her life. In addition to her siblings, she also stayed in contact with many cousins and their families. For example, the Harold Selleck family, the Allen family, and some of Bob's siblings and their families. After they were married 38 years, Bob died suddenly of a heart attack. She felt alone and resolved to start again somewhere else. She moved to Raleigh, where Carol lived, and began again. After a few years there, she moved to Tampa. There she could be near Carol, who had subsequently transferred there, me, and most importantly, her new grandchild, Kimberly. For several years, she picked up Kim from school and took her home until I finished work. As Kim grew, she went to gymnastics after school every day, and Mother drove her there and watched her practice. She made friends with other gymnasts and their parents during the hundreds of hours in the gym. In Kim's early years of gymnastics, Mother let her turn her living room into a gym where Kim practiced and played. Over the years, Kim spent many hours with Mother. Mother traveled to most of Kim's gymnastics meets, including many when Kim was competing for the University of Florida. Mother got to fly to many states she had never visited before. She was so proud of her granddaughter. As far as Mother was concerned, Kim deserved a 10 on every event. Mother claimed that she knew Kim would become a doctor. Mother tells a story of young Kimberly tending to Mother's deeply cut finger, which undoubtedly should have had stitches. Kim bravely cleaned and bandaged the wound. On future days, Kim changed the dressing. Later, Kim admitted to rushing out of the room in the middle of the dressing change, getting a deep breath, and bravely returning to finish. She confided in me later, "Mom, it was so yucky." But she did become a doctor, twice, and she even married a doctor. In 2000, Mother fulfilled a lifelong dream of traveling to England, to the earlier home of her grandfather, Jesse George Nolden, the one who reared her. We, Kim, Mother, and I, planned the trip to spend several days in London seeing the sights, followed by travel to 3 sites where ancestors lived. First was Blenheim Palace, the birthplace of Winston Churchill, who was a Spencer, relatives of Mother. Then Wells Cathedral, where several Sellecks are buried, including John Selleck, who was the Archdeacon of Bath, and finally to an estate in Tenterden, where her grandfather worked. The third stop was the one which was least researched, because we had the least information. We knew the name of the town, but little else other than a photo of the house. We arrived and went to the local library, where we discovered little. They referred us to the local historical society to ask about Tenderden, where again we had little success, until Mother remembered Ingleton Park. That is the name of the local estate home still today. The curator encouraged us just to drive up to the house and knock on the door. English people are very friendly. If we liked, we could stop at the house before the private road where the caretaker lived. He is a friend of the curator. Just mention her name. We had brought a copy of an old photo of the estate with us. She gave us directions, which we followed easily. The tricky part was that the home was really a large estate, about a half-mile back a private road. We could see the house from the parking lot of a nearby business. They told us that the people who lived there had not owned the house for long, maybe a year. They came from the continent somewhere. I could see 6 luxury cars in the driveway, such as Rolls and Mercedes. I pondered the facts. Wealthy? From Europe? Recent residents? Unknown to locals? The impression that came to my mind was organized crime family. We debated for some time. On the other hand, it is hard to own a gun in England. Should we? Did we dare? Mother so badly wanted to see the house where her grandfather lived and worked. Okay, we had come all this way. We made a plan. I would drive down slowly and park some distance away from the front door and away from their cars so as not to look threatening. Kim would stay in the car. Mother would take her cane and I would hold her arm and carry the old photo of the house. How could we seem threatening? We would knock on the door. I would show the photo, explain that Mother's grandfather lived there, and ask if we could simply photograph the house. The woman who answered was certainly surprised. She saw the photo and apparently assessed that we were not dangerous and said we could take photos. We pointed out that the tree in the photo was still alive in the front yard. Kim got out and we took photos and stopped to thank them for letting us take photos and prepared to leave. In the meanwhile, the man joined the woman, and they seemed to get over the shock of us as visitors. They invited us in to see the public rooms. We accepted, and the hosts were very gracious. They even had an extra sales booklet they received when they bought the house and gave it to us. As we left, we were certainly elated. It made the perfect climax to the trip. It proved that sometimes it is okay to take a risk. Mother never forgot the thrill of visiting the estate where her favorite relative, her grandfather, lived. Most likely, the visit was more meaningful due to the adventure of walking up to a stranger's door. She did not mind getting older. She was proud of her age, but she could not stand aging or losing her ability to do things. In her last years, she adjusted to many changes. When the last few enjoyable occupations slipped away, she lost patience. She had built a good life, and not even a strong will could prevent the inevitable.